Hi, my name is porus+munshi, and I've written this book. I've been author of this book, Making Breakthrough Innovation Happen, How 11 Indians Pulled Off the Impossible. And really, I wanted to share with you that I've had just the most awesome day today. I just finished a walk along Church Street in Bangalore with a couple of people who call themselves the Ugly Indians. The Ugly Indians emailed me a week or two ago and shared in the mail that they had been inspired by my story on Surat and S.R. Rao in this book. They decided to put some of those insights from there into practice, and they chose one important, visible and yet dirty street in the heart of Bangalore's commercial and tourist area. This is Church Street, just off Bangalore's famous Brigade Road and MG Road. For years, the street has been pretty filthy. It's been used as a dumping ground. There are garbage heaps that collect every day. Parts of the street are used as a public toilet. Cigarette butts are thrown on the road and they clog drains. Footpaths or walkways are broken so that pedestrians walk more on the road than on the footpaths. All in all, it's much like any other street in any other city in India. And of course, the usual mindset is that the government should do something about it. People complain, but do nothing about it themselves. But now this street is fixed. It's clean, tidy, there are no garbage heaps at any time of the day. The people no more use pots on the open street as public urinals or toilets. Cigarette butts, no more clogged drains, and broken footpaths have been fixed. And this has stayed fixed for the past 6 months, so it's not a flash in the pan at all. These folks, the Ugly Indians, now have a template on how to transform a street by a citizen. There are some very clear how-tos that any concerned citizen can follow and make a difference to his neighborhood. How did they begin? Actually, taking a leaf from S.R. Rao, they began by first spending a great deal of time just observing the street. They mapped out in detail what points the garbage accumulates at. They mapped out where people use the street as an open toilet. They mapped out when the garbage gets cleared every day, when it accumulates again, where it comes from, who dumps how much and when. They next decided on critical points to intervene at and began with the premise that people are fundamentally good and decent and just need to be nudged to do the right thing. Sure, they may need to be nudged every day for a few weeks. After all, habits are now deep-rooted. But once nudged and an alternative presented, most people will do the right thing. It turns out they were right. The insight from Rao was that people have no reference points of cleanliness. And if they see something is dirty, filthy and uncared for with no visible sign of any sort of ownership, people will dump there. On the other hand, if something is obviously cared for and tidy and neat, they'll think twice. By the way, the traditional way of keeping spots clean in India is to paint gods' photos or religious symbols at the filthy spots. But these folks decided to go beyond that. After all, how many religious symbols are you going to keep painting on a long, filthy street? The Ugly Indians met people who were dumping, shared with them the statistics of their dumping, and evolved a consensus on doing things differently. It helped that they had no personal agenda and that they were outsiders whose only intent was the transformation of the street and the city. And as so often happens, most of us would rather trust outsiders than our own neighbors. The Ugly Indians painted walls, placed potted plants, fixed the obvious signs of neglect, roped in people from the street, roped in the municipal workers, and really created a consensus on how to behave when it comes to keeping the street clean. They've created a real on-the-ground impact, and today, after 6 months, the street is still clean and tidy. I can say quite frankly that this is easily one of the cleanest streets in Bangalore. Further, these people now have a template that can be replicated at any street in any part of the country. Check out their website at www.theuglyindian.com. You'll find a template over there. Incidentally, at this point, they want to stay anonymous and below the radar, as they believe that it's early days yet, and in the early days, it's better for a system and a process to be the hero rather than for an individual to be recognized. The walk through Church Street today made my day, because really when I began writing the book, I began with the intent and the hope that it would be able to trigger and inspire people to take on challenges, to take on large aspirations and innovate and find a way to make them reality. We need more and more people to take on and overcome challenges for themselves, their organizations, and like the Ugly Indian, for issues that affect the quality of life. India as a country has huge challenges, and we can't solve these by following the templates and the models of the West. We need to create our own solutions, our own strategies. We need breakthrough innovations to leapfrog accepted stages of development. And what makes my day every day is to really hear such stories. Now, a few weeks back, someone who heads global R&D at one of the two top global FMCG majors called to say that he had used insights from the Arvind Eye Hospital case to help save nearly 80,000 euro annually at his department, and indirectly nearly about 4 times that, about 300,000 euro year on year. He says the insight that he got from Arvind was about what he calls a 5-minute manager. He asked himself, really, why were Arvind's doctors so successful in doing 50 to 60 surgeries a day vis-a-vis others who can do only about 5 to 6, maybe 10 surgeries a day? He asked himself, why were Arvind's doctors so successful in doing 50 to 60 surgeries a day vis-a-vis others who can do only 5 to 6, maybe 10 surgeries a day? And this was because Arvind's doctors focus on what's the most valuable use of their time. In this case, for surgeons, the most valuable use of their time was obviously surgery. No one else could do that. So rather than spend a lot of time on consultations and patient counseling and so on, they focus on surgery. Everything else is done by highly trained nurses and paramedics. This led to what he calls the insight about the 5-minute manager. What is the most valuable 5 minutes of a manager's or a researcher's time? And how can he expand those 5 minutes? I think that's a wonderful insight. Think in terms of 5 minutes. For anything that you take up, which part of what needs to be done needs 5 minutes of your time? For example, as someone was sharing with me, one of India's top heart surgeons operates on patients for only 5 minutes, the maximum skill or challenge part of the process. He's given an open heart to intervene on. He doesn't open the chest cavity to reach the heart, nor does he focus on the management of the surgery. He's given the heart ready for him. He does his vital 5 minutes of surgery and moves on to the next one. 5 minutes is of course a metaphor. What's important is a focus on using your highest skilled resources to do the bare minimum, highest value part of the entire task. This gentleman at the FMCG major used this insight to directly and indirectly save upwards of euro 300,000 at his department. And many people across seem to have used Arvind to transform the way they work. There have been many such stories that people have shared, how they have used the book and applied the cases and insights in it to their own contexts. For instance, many organizations have told me that they have given the book to each member of their core team, and each person is then asked to choose a case and then present it, sharing how insights from the case can help impact his department and the organization. The presentations focus on drawing learnings from each case and using these in a different context. And that makes my day too, because people are obviously thinking about applying the learnings to their specific conditions. And there have been similar success stories in many cases here also. What's clear from these examples is that people really need positive examples. They need positive success stories. And once inspired and shown an indicative direction, many will actually innovate on their own and apply to their own context the principles of breakthroughs that we've outlined in this book. It is positive stories of success that inspire and motivate and provide a direction. The routes to failure are many, but perhaps the routes to making breakthroughs happen are a bit more limited. And also the positive examples show how someone has dealt with and overcome potential failure-creating situations. Success doesn't happen by a happy accident. It happens because someone has found a way to deal with situations and challenges that cause others to fail. I'll repeat that. Success doesn't happen by a happy accident. It happens because someone has found a way to deal with situations and challenges that cause others to fail. It indicates a way of thinking and a way of working that overcomes challenges. I would urge you to read the book not only as a chronicle of breakthroughs from India, but really also as a guide that you can use to create breakthroughs in your own life and work. The principles hold true across contexts. For instance, the Ugly Indians were inspired by Surat and Rao, and they took on the orbit-shifting challenge of transforming a street completely. That, as you know, was the first principle, an orbit-shifting challenge. Having taken on the challenge, they then went into the real world to gather insights into what creates the present condition. They spoke to rag pickers to find out what has value and what doesn't on the street. This was important because if they put up cans or structures, they shouldn't get stolen. And if a rag picker believes something has no value, you can be quite sure that nobody else will perceive value in it, so it won't get stolen. Once they got these insights, they began to prototype what they found. And in the prototype, they discovered newer insights that further fueled the journey of transformation. It became a self-reinforcing positive spiral out of which they have now created a replicable solution for any concerned citizen to take up and implement. Eventually, they plan to scale this all over central Bangalore and eventually everywhere in the country. So all the best to them, and really all the best to you too. I hope after listening to this book, you'll be inspired enough to go out and take a challenge and really make a breakthrough happen yourself. Thank you.